Friends and colleagues, 3 months ago, it would have been impossible to imagine that I would be delivering my presidential address to you from an undisclosed location. Today, the entire world is facing an unprecedented crisis as a global pandemic moves inexorably from one country to the next, impacting the health and well-being of many, disrupting economies and interrupting normal patterns of life and livelihood. It is in this backdrop that I want to share with you some reflections at a time when we would have been together, 9,500 strong, to celebrate the achievements of the outstanding organization that we are, the Endocrine Society. I want to start first by acknowledging that many of our members across the world, particularly now in Europe and in the United States, who are focused on keeping their hospitals open, caring for the most vulnerable, and saving lives. Many of our clinical colleagues have been forced to readjust the way in which you practice endocrinology, and indeed might have put aside your clinical endocrine hats to be a physician on the front lines. As we practice social distancing, many of our research laboratories and institutes are now closed. Clinical trials have been halted, and the work that I know that many of you, our members, are committed to doing have been put on pause. But I am very confident in the resilience of all of us, as I am in the resilience of you, the members of the Endocrine Society, and I firmly believe that this too will pass. Let me now turn to acknowledge and celebrate a phenomenally successful year for your organization. Had I been giving you this address in San Francisco, I know that we would have had record-breaking attendance at Endow, where we were projected to have had approximately 9,500 attendees to this year's annual meeting, Endow 2020. In this regard, I want to acknowledge the tremendous work of the members of the annual meeting steering committee, who put together an amazing program. The overall chair, Dr. Carolyn Smith, the basic science chair, Dr. Stephen Hammis, the clinical science chair, Dr. David D'Alessio, and Dr. Marilyn Druce, the clinical practice chair. I am pleased to report to you that their work will not be in vain, because they are already collaborating with the incoming chairs of ENDO 2021 to put together an annual meeting next year that will incorporate many elements of ENDO 2020 with the best of what will be planned for ENDO 2021. I hope, along with Gary Hammer, our president-elect, soon to be your president, to see all of you and more returning next year for us to celebrate the best of endocrinology in 2021. Moreover, I am pleased to share with you that we have also decided to launch Endow Online 2020. We have received feedback from many endocrine investigators, clinicians, and trainees who have indicated your desire to continue to advance your clinical knowledge and to be exposed to emerging science. We will support you by virtually delivering the content that you need during these challenging times, with a projected launch in June with live and on-demand content. Endow Online 2020 will feature on-demand sessions focused on clinical topics, live sessions dedicated to basic science oral presentations, continuing medical education sessions, programming for early career professionals, and a digital exhibit hall where endocrine scientists, clinicians, and researchers can access resources and make appointments to speak with those who would have been at our meetings as sponsors and exhibitors. Importantly, this virtual content will be made available at no cost to members and non-members around the world. As we look to the future, I want to reiterate the strong commitment of the Endocrine Society to serve the needs and interests of all of our members. We are hopeful that our plans to deliver an outstanding clinical meeting in the fall of this year in the form of the CEU and Endocrine Board Review will proceed. We will continue to support the needs and aspirations of our basic science members, particularly our PhD members who are not clinicians, given that fundamental research is the bedrock on which our society has been built and will continue to be. We will do this by continuing to enhance opportunities for basic scientists to meet and share their data in novel ways, to continue to augment basic science programming and pathways in our future annual meetings, to work towards increasing basic science representation on our board and our committees, and to focus on your needs in all of our advocacy efforts. We remain committed to ensuring that our journals continue to grow and remain a vital repository of your best work. And this is also true for the scholarship that is generated by our clinical investigators and indeed our clinical members. We celebrate the fact that the Endocrine Society has built strong and lasting collaborations across the globe, with multiple partners in Europe, South America, Asia, and Australia. It has been a privilege to visit with many of you during my presidential year and to experience your warm and gracious hospitality. I am hopeful that when we overcome the current crisis, that we will again have the opportunity to gather together in many places around the world to strengthen our networks and celebrate the broad impact of our field on human health worldwide. I am reminded that the core tenet of our mission that drives the current strategic plan that we completed a year plus ago is that together we will unite, lead, and grow the endocrine community to accelerate scientific breakthroughs and improve health worldwide. There are many other facets of a great organization that I'd like to celebrate at this time, and I can only mention some of them briefly here in the interest of time. I'm very proud of the rich focus on advocacy, not only in working towards important policy agendas such as insulin pricing and research funding in the United States, but also in advocating for laws that enshrine protection in our communities to minimize the effects of endocrine disrupting chemicals that were recently passed in the European Union. I want to also celebrate our organization's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We would have celebrated this year a 25-year-long commitment towards increasing diversity in endocrinology at this year's annual meeting, and our commitment to caring for marginalized and vulnerable populations who many will stigmatize. At our annual meeting, we would have celebrated the growth in our early career members, and we would have celebrated the excitement and reach of our investments in early career development, such as our FLAIR program and our Global Leadership Academy. We look forward to celebrating these achievements next year. Before I close, I also want to share some perspectives that I believe may impact the course of our field in the years to come. I believe that endocrine science and endocrine practice is evolving. Our rigorous approach to investigation will only be strengthened as we move further into an era that realizes the growing importance of integrated biology, interdisciplinary team science, and big data to address the major research questions in our field. Classical endocrinology has served us well for over a century, with a focus on gland-based diseases, disorders of hormone excess and deficiency, receptor ligand signaling, and clinical practices that were largely disease-based framed a foundation that will set the stage for the next era of our discipline, such as emerging disorders, including endocrine complications of novel infections, endocrine complications of novel cancer therapies, the convergence of metabolism and cardiovascular disease, and emergence of cardiometabolic disorders as an important threat to human health. We will be central to the emerging fields of immunometabolism, cancer metabolism, and even in embracing new endocrine pathways. For example, those molecules which are propagated by bacteria in our guts that circulate and bind to receptors elsewhere, which I dare say represents the definition of new hormones. This new endocrinology has moved into the secretion of novel molecules, including peptides, but also microRNAs and exosome vesicles from non-classical and classical endocrine organs such as muscle, liver, and adipose tissue. We will lead in the development of novel biomarkers that will increase our contributions to precision medicine. Endocrine practice will also continue to evolve. Our practitioners are taking leadership roles in health systems as they grapple with the costs of managing large populations with prevalent endocrine disorders while maintaining quality and positive outcomes. We will innovate in clinical care models that not only address individuals but populations. Your skill and expertise will continue to redefine the ways that care is delivered in our evolving health systems to embrace additional practitioners and providers who care for the large number of individuals with endocrine-related disorders such as obesity, diabetes, metabolic bone disease, and other maladies of our aging population. In closing, it is important for me to recognize that it takes a team to build and support the multiple missions of the Endocrine Society. It has been a tremendous honor and privilege to serve with members of the Board of Directors and our officers, past President Susan Mendel, President-elect Gary Hammer, Carol Weisham, our President-elect designee, and Dolores Schobach, our Secretary-Treasurer. Your passion, engagement, and support has been tremendously invaluable to me and to our organization as we navigated many unanticipated challenges, which quite frankly, I would not have anticipated when I signed up for this role a little over a year ago. I also want to recognize the outstanding staff of the Endocrine Society. You have and continue to work tirelessly behind the scenes to deliver for our members the many services, products, and information that we often take for granted. And finally, I want to thank you, our members, all 18,000 of you across the world, for your commitment to the field of endocrinology and for your passion in supporting and growing the great field that is embodied within our Endocrine Society. Thank you.